Approximately a year ago, I appeared at the Robbinsville town meeting, and I recounted what had taken place in my township with the school district. My Board of Education granted 4.9%, 4.8%, 4.7%, which ends June 30th of this year. The quid pro quo last year was that starting July 1st, my school board has granted a 3.38% increase to the teachers, over which we have no control. Because every school year, when the budget comes forward, they say, we have to pay contractual obligations over which we have no control. Well, we as taxpayers have no control over is basically the school board. Now, the question that I asked you almost a year ago was, how can school boards, mayors, and people in the public sector see 3 to 5 years into the future? Because those are the wage agreements that are being offered. Your response was, I agree.
Yeah.
Now, this is really not a rhetorical question.
Okay. And
as such, this keeps getting kicked down the road. How can we be doing these 3-year agreements, these 3-year to 5-year contractual agreements, and it all gets passed on to us as the taxpayers, over which we have no control?
Well, you now have a 2% property tax cap. Now, has West Windsor asked to exceed their cap? Is there a cap waiver?
No.
Okay. So first off, your overall tax rate is not going to go up more than 2% from the school expenses. So part of the theory of the cap is to say, if they want to give a 3.38 increase, which is I think the number you said, then they're going to have to figure out how to make that work under a 2% cap. Or they're going to have to come to the folks in West Windsor and ask them to vote for a cap waiver to go over the 2%. The good news about the cap in early returns is there's only 14 municipalities out of 566 that have asked for a cap waiver election tomorrow. And there's only 60 school boards out of 588 that have asked for it. So a very small number are seeing property tax increases that are going to exceed the cap. That's really good news for your property taxes. That means that the cap is showing the beginnings of working. Now, to make it work in the long haul, we've got to pass the rest of the toolkit, and we have to do health benefit and pension reform. I said to someone the other day, if public sector workers are really concerned about collective bargaining and fairness, then let's have statewide contracts. Teachers want to have a statewide contract, I'm all in. Let's start negotiating. Police officers want to have a statewide contract, I'm all in. Firefighters, statewide contract, let's go. I mean, I'm not opposed to collective bargaining. This isn't Wisconsin, okay? I'm not opposed to collective bargaining, but it's got to be fair and adversarial collective bargaining. Because my job in the collective bargaining room is to represent you. I represent the public sector workers, they got a union. My job is to represent you. And if you're discontent with your school board and what they're doing, there's an election tomorrow. And you should vote them out. And I don't want to hear from people that they don't think we can make a difference in school board elections, because we proved last year we could. 74% of the budgets over the last 10 years were approved until last year, when nearly 59% of the budgets were turned down. Why? Because we all focused on it finally. And we said our vote counts, and we're going to get out and make that vote count. I find it fascinating that we have an election on a Wednesday in April. Right? Because when you think Wednesday in April, you think election day, right? There's another one of the toolkit bills that says we should move all this stuff to November, so that more and more people will participate in voting. And that's really important. So, I understand your frustration, and my advice to you is that go out, you, your neighbors, your friends who are concerned about this, in a town the size of West Windsor, you can turn it around. But you got to put candidates up to oppose these guys on the Board of Education, and you need to go out and support those candidates and vote to make the change that you think is appropriate. What we did with the 2% property tax cap is we put control back into your hands. Before, if they wanted to exceed the cap, they just went down to a group called the Local Finance Board in Trenton, who approved 98% of all the cap waiver requests. Now, the only people who can approve the cap waiver requests are you. And so you're getting more control. It's not there yet, but you're better off today than you were when you asked me that question almost a year ago. That was April or May of last year in Robbinsville, right? And we get more of this toolkit passed, you're going to be even better off. But in the end, my theory is, and what I'm fighting for, is to put you in charge. To not have to trust the politicians to do the right thing. And part of that is going to be for you to get people running for school board who are going to agree with your kind of common sense approach to things and not become captives. Remember this, the Election Law Enforcement Commission came out with a report in last year's school election. Over 70% of the money spent for campaigning in the school election was spent by who? What do you think? Teachers Union. 70% of the money spent to elect school board members are spent by the people they're negotiating with. I mean, come on. Do you get the sense that the game may be a little rigged? You've got to fix it. I can help by giving you more tools to do it, and I'm trying to do that. We've done some already. But in the end, you got to fix it by changing the membership of that board and making them not beholden to the teachers union, but beholden to you, because you're the one who's paying the bills.